Hello students, welcome back to your video class. In the previous video, we started your first chapter of the reader, Honeydew, the best Christmas present in the world. This is your first lesson first. The best Christmas present in the world. As I have told you the things, we have read the first part of this chapter, and I told you we share the present gift on special occasions like festivals, New Year, birthday parties, marriage anniversaries, or any other anniversaries like. So you give the gift to your friends, to your relatives, and they keep that gift very carefully. They keep it very safe, and it gives long memory, and your love and your closeness, it keeps your closeness to the person. So this way, this is a chapter here. The festival is Christmas, and there is a present, some present. This is secret. What is the present? So we are going to read this chapter, and half of the chapter we have read, and we started, and the author tells us about a desk, roll top desk he brings at home from a junk store, and it is very old and like very shabby or burnt, and the author doesn't want to pay much money, so he buys it at very cheap rate, and then he thinks to repair it at home, so he put it in his garage, and he starts repairing it. He opens the drawers, and then then he finds a secret drawer. In that he finds a box, and when he opens it, then he finds a letter in that box. So inside the box there was an envelope. There was an envelope inside the box, and the address read, the letter was written to Mrs. Jim McPherson, 12th Copper Beaches, Bridgeport. This is the address, Dorset. I took out the letter and unfolded it. The author says that I took out the letter and unfolded it. It was written in pencil and dated at the top. And the letter was written on December 26th, 1914. The letter was written on December 26, 1914. As I told you, this chapter is related to something, to the First World War, and that time from 1914 to 1918 there was a war time between the England and German, and that time the author is talking about. And now, what was the letter about? What was written in the letter? Let's read now this letter. So Mr. Jim McPherson wrote that letter to his wife Connie. So he starts with this opening, salutation. This salutation, dearest Connie, his wife, I write you in a much happier frame of mind. Happier frame of mind. Oh, beautiful. Because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. So the letter was written to Connie, or you can say Mrs. Jim McPherson, Mr. Jim wrote this letter to his wife, and he wanted to share something very special with his wife. In this letter he writes, we were all standing in our trenches, long deep ditches in the ground where soldiers hide from the enemy. This was a war time, and both the side of the border, the soldiers were hiding. When they hide, they dig the earth, ground, and make a big like cave type, and they hide there. That is called trenches. So we were all standing in our trenches yesterday morning. Now Jim is telling how the thing happened with him, and what the thing happened with him to his wife in this letter. So you must read it. Morning, Christmas morning. It was Christmas morning. It was crisp and quiet all about. Crisp and quiet. Very, very crisp and quiet. Very beautiful all around. As beautiful a morning as I have ever seen. Means he has never seen that type of morning, crisp morning and beautiful morning ever before. As cold and frosty, freezed. Frost is ice, full of ice. As a Christmas morning should be. Like you see, from 25th December to 31st December, or sometimes now we call vacation, midterm vacation, up to 10th of January, or sometimes due to the cold, your school is called off. So the winter vacation is called because that is the peak time of winter, near the Christmas. So the author is telling that what type of Christmas morning should be. It was like that beautiful morning, and cold and frosty. So it was the very peak time of winter. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it. How we began the day, we began the morning, that. But the truth, I am ashamed to say, is that Fritz began it. So the author says that Jim says that I should like to be able to tell you that we began it. That we began the day. I should like to tell you. But the truth, I am ashamed to say, he was feeling ashamed, is that Fritz began it. Fritz, name for a German soldier. Fritz, a common German name like Fritz. In every language there is a common name to the people, common name to the army persons, like we call Tiger, Captain, like that. And first, someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches. White flag. It was war time. One side the British army and other side the German army. The war was going on, and in between the celebration came of Christmas. So the early morning of Christmas, what Jim sees, he saw a white flag waving. White flag is the sign of treaty, means no war. When you fly white cloth, it means you want peace, not war. White color is the symbol or sign of peace. So, waving white flag from the trenches. So, Jim said that we saw a white flag waving from the trenches, from the place where the soldiers were hidden. Trenches opposite, the other side. Then they were calling out to us, and from the other side of border, like other side of border, these are Brit, these are German. So they were what they were saying, they were calling out to us from across no man's land. Across no man's land means between the two armies there was no man. So across the no man's land. So Happy Christmas, Tommy. Someone was calling from the other side. Happy Christmas, Tommy. Happy Christmas. When we had got over the surprise, because those people were enemy, the soldiers were enemy, and still from the other side they were wishing Happy Christmas. It was strange, very surprised. Some of us shouted back, and some of us shouted back, same to you, Fritz, same to you. I thought, because Jim Fedderson, is a Britisher from the Brit army, and the other army is talking German army, so they were Brit. So they said same to you, Fritz, same to you, Fritz. I thought that would be that. I thought that would be that. Means something we all did. We all did. But then suddenly one of them was up there in his grey coat and waving a white flag. I thought that would be that. Means that would be that. It was enough. Wishing a happy Christmas and all that. But we also wished them in return when they wished us. But then suddenly one of them was up there in his grey coat. One army soldier came towards them, waving a white flag. If you do not wave the white flag, the army personnel can shoot you. If at a war such situation occurs. So that person in grey coat waving a white flag, it means he does not want any war. This was the symbol. Don't shoot, lads, he said. Don't shoot, lads, means boys. Someone shouted, and no one did, and nobody shot. Then there was another fridge up on the parapet, and another, keep your heads down. I told the man, it's a trick, but it wasn't. So then there was another fridge. First one person came, then there was another fridge on the parapet, and another, then one more. So I said, Jim says that keep your heads down, keep your heads down. I told the men, I told my friends, it is a trick. Maybe this is a trick to shoot us, or they want to cheat us, or what they want, we don't understand. It may be a trick, but it wasn't. But it wasn't a trick. One of the German was waving a bottle above his head, waving a bottle. It's Christmas Day, Tommy. Tommy is called to Britishers, a common name for an English person, Tommy. It is a Christmas Day, Tommy. We have schnapps. We have sausage, means a drink made from grain, schnapps, liquid. We have sausage, to eat sausage. We meet you, yes. By this time, there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land and not a rifle between them. By the time, there were many coming to us from the no man's land, but they did not have any rifle in their hand, any gun in their hand, but they had schnapps or sausage, a drink from a grain, like you can say like beer or whiskey. And little Private Morris was the first up. Come on, boys. And from our side, little Private Morris was the first up. Come on, boys. What are we waiting for? Oh, what are we waiting for now? And then there was no stopping them. I was the officer. And Jim says, I was the officer. So I said, I should have stopped them there and then, I suppose. But the truth is that it never ever occurred to me I should. So he was officer. So he thought that I should stop them because from his side also the army persons going towards the Germans. So I should have stopped them because this was wartime and he thought that it can be a trick or they wanted to cheat or they must have, they may kill them. So I should have stopped them there and then, I suppose. But the truth is that it never occurred to me. But he could not. All along their line and ours. Line means borderline. And ours, I could see men walking slowly towards one another. So from both the sides, men were walking. Another grey coats, khaki coats, meeting in the middle of no man's land between there. And I was one of them. I was part of this in the middle of the war. That was wartime. We were making peace, and that time the wartime, and in that wartime we were making peace, we were thinking about peace, and we were meeting each other with peace. It was not small thing. You cannot imagine, really. In wartime, you cannot imagine when you are against your enemy and you are fighting with your enemy, and that time you cannot imagine peace between the people. Dearest Connie, he says, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of Fritz officer, who approached me, one officer, hand outrest, Hans Wolf. He told his name, Hans Wolf. He said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it, introduced himself. I am from Düsseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. Happy Christmas. So this way he introduced himself and he said that I am from Düsseldorf and I play piano in orchestra, and happy Christmas to you and happy Christmas. Captain Jim McPherson, I replied. And a happy Christmas to you too. I'm a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. And Jim was a school teacher. He told that I'm a school teacher in Dorset in the west of England. So this way they introduced with each other. Oh, Dorset, he smiled. I know this place. I know it very well. We shared my rum ration and his excellent sausage. Then they shared rum ration and his excellent sausage. And we walked, Connie, he said, we walked, Connie, how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English. However, he was German, but even then he spoke almost perfect English. But he turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset. But he looked like he had never set his foot in Dorset, never even been to England. Even then he could speak very good English. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books in English. So he learned his English from reading books and from school, but he had never been to Dorset. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book, Far from the Madding Crowd. So out there is no man's land. We talked of Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. So we talked about the different places and people, and we started talking there. He had a wife and one son. He told about his family that he had a wife and a son born just 6 months ago. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khaki and grey everywhere. So there were huddles of khaki and grey, means grey were Germans and khaki from the British Army. So there were people he could see all around. And all over no man's land, there were soldiers meeting with each other, smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, eating. Hans Wolf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake. And we shared the cake, wonderful cake. Connie, he thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. It's a type of marzipan, sweet covering on a cake made from sugar, eggs and almonds, like we make the cake. So we shared the cake. I agreed. We agreed about everything, and he was my enemy. How can it be possible? How can you agree with your enemy? However, they were enemy from both the sides and from both the countries, but this time that type of feeling was not in them. They were not enemy. They were like friends, talking about all about and all the things, and family, friends, and they were enjoying sharing their eatables. So how can it be? We agreed about everything. There never was a Christmas party like this, Connie. And we enjoyed the Christmas party, which really never was a Christmas party I enjoyed. Then someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. Then someone brought out a football. And great coats were dumped in piles to make goalposts. And we started playing the football there in the no man's land. And dumped in piles to make goalposts, and they were pulling and pushing each other to make a goal. And the next thing we knew, it was Tommy against Fritz. It was one side Tommy and Fritz. Tommy, England people, British people, and Fritz, German people, in the middle of no man's land. And they started a friendly match there. I looked on and cheered. And we both were just looking them, the other personals, army personals, and we cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet for hooting. When you see the match, you'd hoot to, motivate the players, to inspire, to make them more courageous, filled with energy, to keep out the cold as much as anything. And you don't feel cold when you stamp your feet on the ground. And there was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us, mixing between us in the air. He saw it too and smiled. Jim McPherson, he said after a while, I think this is how we should resolve the wars. Wow, what a beautiful thing he said. That how we can resolve the war, why we fight with each other, one country to other, one person to other, why? How this is the way we can resolve the war, we can make peace, we can bring peace. A football match, no one dies in football match, really, no one dies in football match, but in war many people die. No children are orphaned, no children are orphaned, really, orphaned, without parents. A boy who is without parent is called orphan. No wives become widows, no wives become widow. Widow means a lady whose husband has died. I would prefer cricket. I told him, because English people play cricket, they like cricket. Then we Tommies could be sure of winning probably, because they play cricket very well, in British people, English people. We laughed at that, and another we watched the game, and together we watched the game. Sad to say, really, sad to say, very difficult, Connie. Fritz won, and German people won the match. This is sad to say, Connie. 2-1, and we could not make 2 goals. But as Hans Wolf generously said, our goal was wider than theirs. So it wasn't quite fair. So Hans Wolf said that our goal was wider than theirs. So it wasn't quite fair. So this was not a quite fair winning. And the time came, and all too soon, when the game was finished, the schnapps and the rum, though both are liquid, made of some like a drink, the sausage had long since run out. Finished, run out is a phrase. Run out, finished, finish. So finish, and we knew it was all over. I wished Hans well and told him I hoped he would see his family again soon. And when everything was finished after the game, they finished all the eatables and potables, and then we wished each other. And I hoped he would see his family soon when he go back home after the war. But we don't know. They don't know in war who goes home, who dies there in the war field. That the fighting would end and we could all go home. They were waiting for fighting to stop so they could go home. I think that is what every soldier wants, really, on both sides. Hans Wolf said, "Take care, Jim McPherson. I shall never forget this moment." Really, they spent very beautiful time on the special day of Christmas. They played, they enjoyed their food, they enjoyed their drink and shared. Nor you. He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly. He doesn't want to go. He didn't want to go. I felt. He turned to wave just once, and then became one of the hundreds of grey coats men drifting back towards their trenches. And then again all the people, all the soldiers went back to their trenches, their place where they hid themselves. That night, back in our dogouts. Dogouts also shelter for soldier make by digging a hole in the ground and covering it. And dig a hole and you cover it with some cloth or something. So that is dogout. We heard them singing a carol, type of music in their own place. They at night, late night, they were singing and singing it quite beautifully. It was Still Night, Silent Night, the name of song. Our boys gave them a rousing chorus of, and from their side they were singing, from our side we were singing. While shepherds watch, we exchanged carols for a while, and then we all fell silent. We had our time of peace and goodwill, really beautiful time we had spent that day. A time I will treasure as long as I live. And really, we cannot forget. No one can forget that moment and that day of Christmas, how we spend from both the sides, the army, the enemies, how they spend the time like very close friends. Dearest Connie, by Christmas time next year, Jim writes to his wife, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. Because this war will be very terrible memory. I know from all that happened today how much both armies long for peace. No soldier wants wars. No one wants wars. And war cannot be a solution to any problem. So, from both sides, no army long for wars. From both sides, both armies long for peace, desire. We shall be together again soon. I am sure of it. Your loving Jim. So this is the letter written by Jim McPherson to his wife Connie, and when he is there at the war post and the war time was there both the armies, how German and British these army personals shared the moment of special occasion Christmas. So all he writes the experience and he tells that this was the very beautiful day and he can never forget this moment. So all about this experience. So we'll continue this chapter in your next class. By the time you read and underline the words, difficult words if you have not understood, and try to find out these 5 questions are given, and almost you have read. See the question, who had written the letter, to whom and when. I have told you who is writing the letter, to whom. Why was the letter written? What was the wonderful thing in that happened? What was the wonderful things we have read in this letter? What jobs did Hancock and Jim McPherson have when they were not soldiers? And as I told you, Hans Wolf was a singer and McPherson was a teacher. All things you will find. So you tell what job they did before coming to the army. Had Hans Wolf ever been to Dorset? No, he never. Why did he say he knew it? Because he had heard from somewhere. So do you think Jim McPherson came back home from the war? How do you know this? So do you think he came back from the war or no? You can guess it. So these questions you will write and you will find the answers. We'll continue this chapter in the next class. By the time you have a good reading and find the difficult words, and learn them well. Thank you so much. Have a nice time.